Okay, I think we're going to have a very strange beginning to this year, and you'll hear why. One may add, given the history of this year, it's very hard to be strange. You have to, considering that's a relative term, but I think, listen to this story and help me on it. Many years ago, as a matter of fact, I know how many years ago, it was about 7 years ago, and I'll soon tell you how I know it was about 7 years ago. I was in a bungalow colony for Shabbos, and I was asked to pinch hit for the Daf Hayomi Magid Shir, whereas Shabbos morning I would give the shir. So suffice it to say, giving a shir Shabbos morning is a tremendous incentive to wake up early. And so I was like hurrying really on this daf in the Schachter Erev, and that's how I know it was 7 years ago. And I was like going at it from 5 o'clock, and let me tell you something. You know those Gemaras that you say, I can't understand because there's too many pictures and stuff, you know, on it. And when you have to give a shir, suddenly you realize you can understand. Klosenberger Rav, Zechan Levracha, once asked an askin, someone that's, you know, helps people out in different political arenas, or he has connections, high windows. He said, you know, help this guy that's in trouble. So the guy said, I can't. And he said, if I can, I will. Let me look into it. So the Rebbe said, okay, fine, I'll accept that answer, but I want to tell you a story. He says, when I used to give a shir back home in Klosenberg, so I had a lot of Rambams and Svarim to carry, and I couldn't carry it. So I had a bacher that carried it for me. He says, when the Nazis made me carry stones twice my weight up a mountain on a starvation diet from morning to night in 90-degree weather, and there were two choices. Either you carry the stone or you die. So suddenly I was able to. So there's a very, very, I just want to say, when you say you can, make sure what that means. Because we can a lot of things given the proper incentive. So, you know, I'm on my way to the shir. And there's this kid there. Now he was an older bacher. He was taking care of the day camp or something, and he's sitting under a tree, and he's like reading a book. And I'm passing by, and I feel bad because I'd like him to come to the shir. After you work for the shir, you know, you want as many people as possible, right? It's always a good feeling to have as many people as possible by a shir. Shem Shemayim, of course, so more people can learn Torah. What do they say that they're importing, you know, parenches? You know what parenches are? They're like the bleachers. They say they're importing them now from China, and if you want, you can import them with people. So really gives a good look for... Okay, so there I am, and I'm telling him, why don't you come along with me? Why don't you come along with me to the shir? And he's reading something under the tree, and he's like saying, nah, you know, I'm burnt out. I say, you're burnt out? Why don't you put a new battery? Those are nice words, okay? But like, you know, go give your shir. I say, I don't know why I asked this question, because it was really none of my business. I said, what are you reading? He goes, you know, whatchamacallit. I remember Rav Palm, Zecher Tzadik L'Vracha, giving a shir, and he was talking to the Bachrim about Nekiyas Hadiver, to avoid Nivul Peh. And he said, you shouldn't say words like, you know, like what? He goes, words like, whatchamacallit. That was Rav Palm's idea of Nivul Peh, whatchamacallit. You know, when you're way up there, your whole level, your whole range is different. So I always wondered, why is whatchamacallit in Rav Palm's eyes, if not Nivul Peh, why is that a lack of Nekiyas Hadiver? And there's different levels of Nekiyas Hadiver depending on your madrega. And I realized that when you're a person like Rav Palm, and from 5 o'clock in the morning till late at night, in your years, and you're busy with every single person that comes to you for an eitzah or a shayla, and you give over your labor nefesh to that individual, that part of the achrayus of humanity is the recognition of the person that's around you. And to say, what are you doing? I don't know, that guy, whatever, that thing, whatchamacallit, you know, whoever, right? That means you're not taking the time to give that person in front of you the thought. You're not focusing on him. And to Rav Palm, that was a hefkeris. What do you mean? There's a person sitting in front of you. Give him your full intention. Rav Palm once wrote a little note to someone whose father was in the hospital. He used to daven in the yeshiva. He said, I'm a kohen, I can't come visit you. I would love to come visit you. And he said the man read it and he kept the note and he showed it to 1,000 people. Everyone that came in, you see, Rav Palm wrote to me he would come, but he's a kohen, he can't. Every time a doctor or a nurse came in, don't put it on that table. Rav Palm's note is over there. He would find a reason to explain the note. So they told Rav Palm what happened. So he cried. They asked him, why was Rav Palm crying? He said, how long did it take me to write that note? 30 seconds. He said, if it's so easy to give someone recognition, to make someone happy, so what kind of awesome achrayus is it? How many other people could you be mesameach in your life if you only stop to think about them and nod your head and just listen to what so-and-so has to say? Okay, so be it as it may be, I tell this kid, why don't you come and learn? So he says, well, where's Daf Yomi up to? I said, Sechtas Erevin, but it's like a new sugya, a new Mishnah, you can catch on. He goes, Erevin. Every time I want to learn Daf Yomi, they're up to Erevin. I said, well, if you open a Gemara once in 7 years, I can't help you. Every 7 years you're going to open a Gemara, they're going to be up to Erevin. I didn't say that. But that was his understanding. I said, come on. Whenever Daf Yomi is always up to Erevin. And the guy that said, I was in Woodridge and it rains. It always rains in Woodridge. Whenever you're exposed to it. I had a guy that came to visit me once from out of town. And he came like this coming week, where everyone's loading up to go to the country. He said, what does Bar Park have with 15 passenger vans? Wherever you go, there's 15 passenger vans all over loading up. I said, well, it's only this week. Oh, come on. What is, if he would have said, what does Bar Park have with Odysseys or Sienas, I would have said, we're going to give a whole Torah. Torah is to wander across the globe, and we have to learn Torah in Japan also, and maybe Shanghai wasn't enough, so therefore we're importing all these Japanese cars over here to learn when we're, by red lights, we chazim mishnayos. I would have come up with something. But you ever wonder where all these vans are the entire year? And really, this week, that's just the agav, side note, footnote, right? At every block you're going to go in Borough Park and Williamsburg and Flatbush, there's going to be a 15-passenger van loading people up to go to the country. Where are all these vans all year? All right, we'll leave that for a different discussion. Do you know that the Baba V'Rav, Zechut Tzadik L'Vracha, when the buses went to camp, so he stood there as the buses left, and he kept depositing coins into the Remeir Balanes Pushka, and you couldn't talk to him. Your mamish could not talk to him until they told him the buses arrived in camp safely, and he was like, breathe the sigh of relief. That was his focus. That was his connection. There were no whatchamacallits by these people. Everyone was alive and cared. Somebody once came to the Kedushas Levi, and the Kedushas Levi said, you live in this and this town, can you please give something to Mechel? Give this thing to Mechel. He said, I don't know who Mechel is. The Kedushas Levi was like taken aback. There's somebody in your town? You don't know who he is? How could you not care for him? I have a mechutin, went to the Satmar Rebbe, Zechat Tzadik L'Vracha, with a kvittel. A kvittel, as you know, you write your name on a piece of paper. And the Rebbe wasn't well. It was years after the stroke, and he went in and the Gabbai would read the names. So he's downstairs waiting to get permission to go upstairs. And he wrote his name and the names of his family on the kvittel. And as he's about to leave, the phone rings, and the Gabbai picks up the phone, and somebody was calling in to be masker a chayla, to bring the name of the sick person to the Rebbe to daven for. So the Rebbe called him back and just took the piece of paper and added, this chayla's name to the kvittel, that the Rebbe should give a bracha. So he said he went up there, and you would think that, the Rebbe is out of it, he's sick, and the Gabbai just reads it, he says, Amen. So he puts the kvittel down, and the Rebbe reads the names, and all of a sudden the Rebbe stops. And he's like, what's this name doing on this kvittel? It's two separate things. What are you putting it all together? There's no wholesale here. He knew exactly, he didn't know him, he didn't know him. But he knew these two names don't belong. Because a tzaddik has a perception, there's a certain reality to the people that are around him. It takes you to who you are. Certain clarity, certain inyan. Right? Why is it? There's a chassan, you don't say tachna. Why? Well, he's a chassan. What does that have to do with me? You're davening in his shul. You are obligated to act in such a way you're not sharing his simcha. And we know when we all say tachna, we cry, our hearts out by Yeshamnu Begadnu, at least there's a zecher to it, it's supposed to be, right? So you don't want to forshtare the simcha. There's a bris, we don't say tachna. So the hechach, what are we saying? We're saying is you have to look around the shul and there has to be a connection. I've said this story many times and it was misunderstood many times, so we'll try again. There was a city, the Balatanya had a chassid who became a rav in a certain city. And there was a simple people. And they would come into shul And they would schmooze. Your cow's not giving enough milk, and my chickens are, I don't know, having a problem, and your goat climbed over my this and that, you need a shidduch for his daughter, and they were talking. And then the Rav would come in, bang, 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 and they would daven. And no one would talk during davening. But the Rav said, that, al Kedushas Beis HaMedrash, he decided, there's no talking. But nothing. You come in, quiet, till we start, even before davening, even after davening. No talking at all. That's what he said. He's right. So in a way, he's right. Not in a way, he's right. And all of a sudden, the town started to suffer a lot of terrible disasters, one after the other. People were sick and so on. So he went back to the Balatan. He said, I made such a beautiful takana. So the Balatan said, who says it was such a beautiful takana? He said, you want to enforce not to talk during davening? Of course. That's your achrayus as a Rav. But before davening and after davening, it's not like these people have an ability to sit down and learn exercise. So before davening, Yankov says to Moshe, my cow's not giving enough milk. Vitamin D. Give it vitamin. I'm telling you, start giving milk. Beryl, my goats are jumping over the fence. The neighbor, I'll help you build a goat. I'll help you build a goat. I'll help you build a fence. Don't worry about it. I need a shidduch for my daughter. You need a shidduch for my daughter? Hey, Chaskel needs a shidduch for his son. You know what I mean? How old's your daughter? What? 28? Chaskel's son? 16? Great! Well, we'll do something about this. We'll work on it. And people started davening, and they were hoping, I hope I can solve the problem with his cow. I hope I can get the shidduch for his daughter. I hope. And that created an achdus. It created a koyach hatfili. You took that away. Did you say you should talk during davening? No! Should not talk during davening. Chasu lahaski. But before davening and after davening, there's a need to be mekayim the mitzvah of v'yahaftu l'yacha k'maycha. And we live in a world where it gets harder and harder to recognize the people around us. And very often, it's not because we don't care, it's because we are distracted. I'll tell you the story many times. During the last snowstorm, it's always nice to talk about snowstorms in 90-degree heat. So there was this big, people shoveled their snow. When was the big snowstorm? 3 years ago, 4 years ago? So, I don't know, normally if you did took your trigonometry or geometry region, you would know that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So why people shovel their snow like this on Kli Yankel, I don't know. But that's what some people do. Like an S, right. So you get to walk like zigzag, right. And some people, they're down people at Kavskos that were all very thin, so they make this very thin line. Then if two people face each other, one's coming toward me and I'm going there, so in the old days when the knights did this on a bridge, they fought to the death, So, but we don't do that, so here I am, and I'm meeting this guy. I walk to yeshiva every morning, run to the grocery, run to my car, and I meet this person every morning coming my way, and I don't know, he did nod to me, I did nod to him, I nodded this way, nodded that way. And but now, it's like, he looked vaguely familiar. But now we're both coming toward each other, opposite traffic, on a narrow path, and like there's no way around. I can't walk into the snow. We're facing each other. So I said, we're not going to pull out our swords and duel. I said, you go. It's okay. No, I'll step in the snow. So finally, I have no choice but to talk to him, because we're mamish facing each other. And I say, what's doing? How are you? He says, well, you know me, I was in your class in high school. Really? What's your name? Oh, wow. I'm not very good with names. Every once in a while, this Talmud comes over to me. I was in your 8th grade class, 16 years ago. Remember my name? So I want to tell you something. If I remember your name, that's not a good sign, okay? So be happy that... Anyway, he says, you were in my class in high school. Right. And Mamish did remember in this particular case. He goes, so I've been seeing you here, for the last 6 months. Right. So I moved on the block. You moved on my block. Oh, yeah. He goes, is it okay on the block? He says, yeah, no one bothers me, but it's like, we haven't really connected to anyone. We moved from out of town, and no one really talks to us, including you. And I'm saying, well, I thought you looked familiar when I passed by. And I did nod. That was so nice of you. Right, I know, you did nod. But we never really stopped to ask me who I am, or where I'm coming from, or maybe you want to come over Friday night, or something. So I said, I thought that this zigzag line is a crooked line in the snow. It really was a straight line. I was walking zigzag every day, past you. And Rabbi took me on a straight line toward you. So he made this appointment that we're face to face. That you're right. We live in an environment, some places better than others, but you want to, we fail to recognize what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is providing in front of us. So now, Rabbi say, getting back to my friend over here, forgot about him. So I'm on the way to the shir, and I kind of made it my thing to get him to come to the shir. So I said to him, come on, what are you reading there? He says, I'm reading some kind of a cartoon, okay? Shabbos morning, before Nishmas, reading cartoon. Okay. I said, why, now that I read cartoons on Shabbos? Well, this is halachis of what you're allowed to read on Shabbos or not. It's complicated. Let me ask you something. What about if it was not Shabbos? Are those cartoons okay? Because, the old Peanuts cartoon. I shrugged. I said, I don't know what that is. So why do you like reading it? You like identify with Charlie Brown? I said, I thought you don't know what it is. Oops. So I said, what? It really excites you? He says, I'm burnt out, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm this, I'm that. I get a thrill from this, okay? I said, okay, it's generally clean. I don't know, I'm giving a scum on it, but, He goes, look, you don't get it? You see, Charlie Brown hits the ball. You know his dog Snoopy? Not personally, but, we've met, yeah. He says, you see, he runs after the ball and he catches it with his mouth, and that gives me a thrill. You got a problem with that? Not a major problem with it, but, okay. I said, I said, why don't you still come into the Beis Medrash and, listen, try to, help me with this stuff and everything. I want to get through it. I just told you, okay? I got a thrill from Snoopy catching the ball. So he walks away, so he kind of challenged me. So what do I say to this guy? So I told him, the Mechaykek, the Mishanaisam, the Sfas Emes says, from the Chedush Yerim, the Mechaykek, it's cracked in, that there's a aura of Torah in everything. The Torah is the blueprint of the world. Torah is the blueprint of the world. Right. So whatever happened in the Torah, whatever takes place is in the Torah. So the next thing you're going to tell me is that Charlie Brown and Snoopy are in the Torah? Well, I don't know if they're real. It's someone's imagination. But if it's something that took over, that so many millions of people were for 20 years were following this, then everything is in the Torah. Okay, great. I'm really happy. Go give your shir in Erevin. I said, Estakel Baraisei Bara Alma. The Torah is the blueprint of the world, and sometimes we look into the Torah and we feel a sense of relief that we're following our path. Okay, that's very geschmack. Coming to the shir? No. I just told you, I got a thrill from Snoopy catching the ball. He used that as like a metaphor. I said to him, he's like rolling his eyes, what? So Rav Shlomo Zavil said that everyone comes down to this world with a certain amount of tinnik, noilid, the kicker, biyadai. The person comes down with a certain amount of parnasa, the person comes down with a certain amount of simcha, the person comes down with a certain amount of tsar, a certain amount of agmas nefesh. Whatever thrill you can get from the Snoopy book, you can get from the Black Gemara Lahava. It says you make a sound of being over the worst of in the world. I didn't say that. I'm just saying like this, that everything in the world is divided into three. It's either a mitzvah, it's a reshus, it's something you can do, or it's an aveir. The mistake that people make is that you may derive pleasure from a mitzvah, you may derive pleasure from a reshus, you may derive pleasure from an aveir. But you're not going to get any extra pleasure from the aveir. I'm not saying you're doing an aveir, because it can't be chayt and nisker. You understand? So what about, I know a lot of people that aren't happy. Well, sometimes we have simcha that was given to us, but there are certain things that block us from tapping into that joy that is within us. It says, kat leitzim, kat mechanfim, kat besapi lashon, not makabel pnei hashchina. You're getting too complicated for me. It says, give me a break, okay? I'm watching Snoopy catch the ball. Goodbye. So I say to him, I think he's going to slug me with that ball. I say to him, Gemara, the Bnei Yissaschar says, is Rashi Tevis, Gabriel, Machol, Rafal, Ariel. If you learn a black Gemara before davening, the malachim carry your tefillahs up. He says to me, Tell me, you didn't have to give a shir. Would you be up an hour before davening? I said, I better quit while I'm ahead. So I start walking, and okay, I give up. I'm walking. I come to the shir, we start the shir, and he comes following it, Like, he would have come to the shir, but he couldn't give in that he was coming into the shir, so he came, he sat down, opens the Gemara, slams it open, so to speak. So we're up to the Sechtes Erevin Daf Tzadik Tes, which was last Shabbos. That's what reminded me of the story. So you know that in order to be chayiv for carrying on Shabbos, you have to transfer from a Rishus HaYachid, a private domain, to a Rishus HaRabim, or vice versa, or 4 Ames in a Rishus HaRabim. And not only that, in order to be chayiv min ha-Torah, you have to go through a 3-step process, which is an akira, lifting it in one domain, haitzah, rachnasa, transfer from one Rishus to the other, and then hanacha, putting it down. And the halacha is that you have to put it down and lift it from a chashuv place, from a makom that is at least dalet al dalet tfachim, 4 by 4 tfachim. Right? Tefach is approximately the size of a fist. So we're learning the Gemara, and the sugi of the Gemara is You know, you would hope a guy like this comes in and there's this nice Agadah Gemara. He could be Moshe Chalev. They talk about Amunah. So there's a whole sugi if somebody spits in one rishos into another rishos, he's chayav or not. And you know, and this guy's like sitting there and he's like, he's rolling his eyes, kind of like, listen, this is the Gemara, you know. And I'm saying, you know, you organized this Gemara for this person, so there must be. And we're going a little light. They're like, give me a break. And then Gemara asks a kasha. What do you mean if I spit from one rishos to the other rishos? I'm chayev. You have to spit. The kira has to be from an area which is at least 4 by 4 tvachim. And if I spit, so there's no 4 by 4 tvachim in your mouth. So everyone starts arguing. So there is 4 by 4 tvachim in your mouth. You have a big mouth, a small mouth, this mouth, that mouth. And he's looking around. He's looking at me like, you know, this is what I came in to argue about, right? I'm trying to, hey, this is Torah, you know, so I was like, I gotta go weiter. What should I do? So the Gemara says, no, listen here. If it comes from a makom choshev, it's considered as if it's da'al ra'anois. And I'll prove it to you, says the Gemara. And now he's about to walk out, like he's had it with his spitting business. And the Gemara says, I'm giving up on it. And all of a sudden I'm saying it, I don't realize what I'm saying. Zok the Gemara, I'll prove it to you that even if you're not spitting from a makom dalet al dalet, it's a chosh of a place, it's considered dalet al dalet, because Rabbi said, Zorak, if you throw something, v'nach, and it rests, b'fi hakelev, in the mouth of a dog, so that's considered a complete catch, and you're chayev, and he freezes. And he turns around, and the look on his face, I never saw such a color on a guy's face in my life. So Rashi, the machshavtoi mishavulei markaim zok toisves, that if someone has hanor from the fact that the dog caught it, so Memela, his machshava creates an area of dalet al dalet. This guy like throws the cartoon book out of the window and he sits down and goes, wow. You know, I'm giving the Eibush the eitzes to give me a guy at the Gemaras. You know what I mean? I never saw such a color on a person. I said, hey, it's there. You know, so call me insane for doing this. I don't think you ever heard a shiur starting out with an analyzation of Snoopy and the Gemara. But, you know, the Brisker Rav said, if this person doesn't believe in Hashgacha Pratis, he's not an apikaris, he's just a fool. Because if you want to look around, you're going to see it. You're going to see it very clearly. Now, let's try to take this a step further. President Obama is going to be traveling to Africa. He's leaving the G8 summit. So the Washington Post, which I do not read, but someone told this to me, gave over what they're doing there for the security of the president, as should be. But because he may be in some of the volatile countries, so they have to send along as follows: an aircraft carrier. Now, an aircraft carrier, you know, is not just like a little Astro there. That's like basically a huge airport on a boat. A series of C-130 cargo planes, which are flying warehouses. And they're going to be carrying 56 vehicles, 14 limousines. See, I travel light. I just go with one limousine. I don't know why you have to need 14. 14 limousines, 56 vehicles. I hope they don't pay overweight by the, over 50 pounds a suitcase. That could add up. Also on the truck is going to be, is going to be 3 trucks, 3 truckloads of glass. Why 3 truckloads of glass? Because they're concerned to protect the president. Hashem should help, he should be protected. But they want bulletproof glass. So they have 3 truckloads of huge things of glass, which they're going to cut to size, and then they're going to put into the hotel windows where the president is staying. Now, I understand the glass that's necessary. But why do they have to send the 3 trucks? I mean, why can't they? I guess Avis's rent-a-price tickets in Somalia is pretty expensive. It's cheaper to take the whole truck. In addition to that, it says that they're going to have a series of F-15 fighters that are going to be flying for 24-hour shifts, 24 hours straight, over wherever the president is. I hope that those pilots don't have a straight 24-hour shift, because I would not want to be on that plane, or under the plane, for that matter. Now, I'm not saying this facetiously or sarcastically. This is Malchus, and you send the Melech, you have to protect the Melech. That's the obligation that the country has at all costs. But my point is as follows. So the president is going there, and clearly he has a lot to discuss with the leaders of Africa, and whatever has to be taken care of. But imagine the taxpayer foots a bill of whatever this is going to cost, of, I don't know, how many millions and millions?
100 million.
100 million, that's all. Okay, 100 million, that's all. Okay. And let's say, the president would come and say, I'm bored. I'm just going to sleep through this vacation, that's all. Or by mistake, they put in the bulletproof glass all the way around. You can't get in, you can't get out. Okay, I'll stay, I'll sleep. So, how are you going to explain to the taxpayer, to Congress, that 100 million? I mean, you went on a work, not that the president is not entitled to a vacation, but you were going on a working thing. Now, what is the Musar Haskell here? I'm trying to bring out. He's looking at the Midrashim. It cost the Rabbi Shalom much more to send us down here to this world. And that's why Chazal say, Kasha zivuge shaladam kekriyas yamsif, Kasha parnasase shaladam kekriyas yamsif. The Eibush has to find us, give us life, and sustain us, and give us breath. What's so hard? The Eibush can do anything. The answer is yashrus wise, because really, if a Kadosh Baruch Hu went with din and cheshbon, we should be gone by year 1, by year 2, by 10. But the Rebbe Hashem keeps us here as long as possible. And all the malachim tiny yosher. Why are you giving so much chesed and rachamim? That's why it says, right, the Kadosh Baruch Hu is compared to the eagle, that the eagle holds its, all birds hold their babies underneath as they fly, and the eagle holds its baby on top, because the eagle says, Yichnesu ha'chetz bi, let the arrow go into me to protect my children, because the eagle need not worry of other birds of prey that fly higher. But what's the nimshal? The eagle is risking its life, but Yichnesu ha'chetz bi. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kaviyachol, is not physical. The chetz doesn't do any damage. So my father used to say from the Marv Shamish from others, that Pshat is, by Kriyas Yamsif, they had kindness. They said, hey, the Jews aren't deserving of this. Why are you doing it? And the Rabban Shem didn't have a good answer. Allah did by desire, Allah did by desire. And that was a Bizayan. That was Yichnesu ha'chetz bi. So whatever the case may be, it is very, very difficult for Hashem to send us here, yet He sends us here. And therefore, that leaves us with two things. A responsibility. Look what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us. B, Hakaras HaTayv. I want to add something here. I've told you many times that I do most of my recording and taping in my attic of my house. Menachem, there used to be there. Still waiting for that air conditioning system there, Menachem. Okay. Now, in order to get to my attic, tell me if I'm exaggerating. Maishi, right. That's what Maishi don't hit tonight. In order to get to the attic, you have to climb up a ladder that goes through the bedroom closet. Which means you have to push away all the clothes and you have to climb up on this wooden ladder that has been there from Sheshis Mei Bereshis. I think it could even be the ladder from Yaakov's dream. I don't even know. But it's like a ladder, My kids, they know how to go up the ladder, down the ladder. 2-year-old kids, what down? Like, what is that on? Okay, he's used to it, So you get to the top, and I have my desk, and my phone, and my recorder, and everything. And it's like if you stand, it's only like a teep. You can only stand in the middle, and if you stand, you hit the roofing nails. Suffice it to say, in the winter it gets quite cold. That's not so bad. You can put an electric heater. In the summer, it gets tough with the sun beating down on it. Of course, I'm on the sunnier side of the block. Shall we say it's not a good place to leave a freeze pop on the desk. And sometimes, every once in a while, I say, come on, can I have a nice office to record in? So every time I do that, I always get into trouble. Like the Moshe says, hey, that's what I gave you, appreciate it. I remember once I had this, someone came up to put in a phone line. So it was like a typical 1960 wearing jeans and a long ponytail, and he's climbing up the ladder, and he's like working on the line. I said, well, this is my office. And he goes, man, I wish I had a place like this. I said, I shouldn't complain. So all attempts that I made over the years to find someplace else to record, it somehow never worked out. And all my recording, all my shiurim somehow gets prepared and is done in this attic. Yes, which sometimes has birds and squirrels, at least they were on the outside so far, and different... Now, last Friday, as I was having these thoughts, why do you want me in this attic, eventually? Not that I'm complaining. So there's a knock on the door. I come to the front door, and there's an elderly couple there. I don't know, in their 80s, 70s, 80s, And they say, hi, we're Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, we live in Boker. Yeah? He goes, we lived in your house once. She says, and I was a little girl, I grew up in this house. And we didn't buy the house, we bought the house from someone in the middle. Was wearing flippers, if you know what I mean. But so I said, would you like to come in? Sure, if you don't mind, sure, please come in, you'll come out, serve ragalach. They're sitting down. Now, when I bought this house, it's not a very big house. No, Baruch Hashem, trust me, I'm not complaining. I love my house. But it's 18 feet wide. And when we first bought it, it was a typical house. Like there was an outside porch, and there was a big fireplace and a living room, and a tiny kitchen, and there was a stairway that led up, and there was another apartment upstairs, a totally different apartment upstairs, with a kitchen. One of the bedrooms was a kitchen, like 2 apartments. It's like no shaykhs to where you would want to raise a. So we sat down and redid the apartment. It was gutted out, and we redid it, and we enclosed the front porch into being part of the house, and Baruch Hashem created a very nice environment. And of course, we live differently. The dining room was the main focus. I told you the story once that this fellow went to buy a house, a Rabbi in a certain place, and he sat down in the where was the fireplace. And they said, "Well, this would be the dining room," and he started singing. And the guy, the owner, the seller of the house, said to the agent that he, okay, this guy, who am I saying? He's saying, "What are you doing? Why are you singing?" He goes, "This is the dining room. Why are you singing?" He says, "This is what I'm going to sing Zmiris. I have to hear how the Zmiris sounds. This is what you buy a house. This is your whole house. This is the Zmiris. This is what I'm looking for, Never mind the termite inspection. I'm going to do a Zmiris inspection." So Baruch Hashem, we basically redid the whole house. And of course, we combined the two, made it into one apartment. So she's looking around, I would have never recognized the house. It looks so different. It looks Baruch Hashem, fresh, new walls, and everything nice and neat and clean. So I said, "You grew up in this house, and how many? You were 8 kids, and there was another family upstairs, totally different apartment." "Yeah." And I said, and she says to me, my uncle lived upstairs. Yeah. And I don't know if she was religious, not religious. She was. I don't think she looked from. She goes, my uncle, this house, it was built in 1919, and my uncle would not work on Shabbos, and he was thrown out of his apartment. He was in the street, and my father said to him, I'll let you turn the upstairs of my house into an apartment. And he came and he lived upstairs. So all of a sudden I'm saying, whoa, wait a second. So I have no idea if he ever went up to the attic or not, but it's the same ladder. And I said, I could just imagine this uncle moving into these, rooms that was converted into an apartment, because if not, he would be on the street because he doesn't want to work on Shabbos. And somehow I have this feeling that he opened up this closet door, and he must have climbed up this ladder into this attic, which then was empty, and he wasn't blessed with, desks and phones and stuff. And he said, "Boire Kalilam, I'm living here because I don't want to work on Shabbos." And the Rabbi Shem said, not that I'm trying to boast, but the Rabbi Shem said, "Hey, this tefillah is very special to me. And just maybe this attic has to be the place where shiurim are going to be prepared to. And you know what, Tatali, you'll try 1,000 times, rent the room here, it's not going to work. It's got to be from here. Yes, roofing nails, or no roofing nails." Do we realize in our lives that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu prepares for us, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu builds for us, our environment was made for us, it was built for us? Where is our responsibility? If the president would have to answer, where did this $100 million go if we didn't do what I was supposed to do in Africa, what are we supposed to answer to the Boirei Kalilamim who built worlds around us? It was a Yid in Yerushalayim, Reb Zalman Brizel. Reb Zalman used to walk on the streets in Yerushalayim. He would say like this, "The pharmacy, my pharmacy. Hashem made it for me. I need medication. I go in with the prescription, and there's expert people that order the medications and make it and deliver it and give it. A whole store, a whole staff working for me." Well, they're not really just working for you. Just one of many customers. What's the difference? They're there for me. You'll make it sound like you own the pharmacy. If I owned the pharmacy, I would have to worry about payroll. I would have to worry about this taxes, that taxes. The Rabbi made it for me. I don't have to worry about it. Walk across to the bakery. You see what Hashem did? 30 people baking in a hot kitchen bakery all night for me, for challahs. They're baking hundreds of challahs just so I should have my 3 challahs for Shabbos. Hashem made me a bakery. Well, it's not really your bakery. You're right. I don't have to worry about payroll. I don't have to worry about taxes. I don't have to worry about passing inspections on the ovens and fire and things. You're right. Because Baruch Hu spared me all of that. Hashem just gave me a bakery. Now then he got onto the bus and said, Hashem gave me a bus to take me from place to place. You get the idea how you can look at life? The Talmud Rebbe used to ride on the bus, on the Egged bus. And, he would say, today you measure a person by the length of his car. Someone comes in a little smart car, Someone comes in a bigger car, he's more chashiv. Someone comes in a limousine, must be more chashiv a person. Someone comes in a stretch limousine, he's even more chashiv. Someone comes in a bus, car chashiv. It's longer than anything. See how you look at this world? It's all for me. What did the guy say? I deal with the biggest companies. He applied for a job. And who are you? Every day I talk to the biggest companies in the world. I have correspondence with them. Really? Yeah. Con Edison calls me every single day, sends me letters. Verizon, Chase, for closing the mortgage, for closing a bill, everything. Said I have a shul next door. As soon as I moved into the house, there was a shul opened up next door. Beautiful, base medrash, full of svarim, full of, light, air conditioning all day. It's a very interesting story with that shul. It's called Rudnik Rebbe, a good friend of mine, is on Gesund Star. No? Uncle Yankel? I know. Only a shul next to the house. He asked the Baba V'Rav, I'm opening a shul, any advice? The Baba V'Chassid. So the Rebbe told him like this. He said, what kind of shul people do you want? He says, there's two ways to be successful when you make a shul. A place to daven, there's plenty of places to daven in Borough Park. He said, if you want, you could give a very big kiddush every Shabbos. That's one way of getting people to come. Then you'll have kugel eaters. He said, if you want, you keep the Beis Medrash open for anyone that wants to come and learn. Let the coffee be there, let all the svarim be there, let it be air conditioned, let it be lighted, and make it a comfortable environment to come in there and learn. People need a place to come in and learn, whether they do daven there, whether they don't daven there. He says, if you want that kind of a person, do it this way. Suffice it to say that the Rebbe's advice was very key and to the point. So I always say to myself, you know what the Rabbi Shem did? He gave me this huge room full of svarim. So imagine if every time during the day I can leave my house and I walk in, I have almost all the svarim I want, air conditioning, lights, and this, all for a little membership that I'd never wind up paying anyway, which I should. But look what Rabbi Shem did. Extended my house. I even have company. I'm never there alone. Baruch Hashem, people to talk to and learning from me, the Chacham that are sitting there know a lot more than me that I could ask questions to. I said, how do you look at life? You can look at life and say, what did the Rabbi Shalom do for me? And life changes. Are you going to say, well, it's not really yours? No, it's not really yours. Nothing is really yours. Originally, how did the economy work? How did the economy work as a barter system, right? I had socks and you have pants and we switch. That's good if you need socks and I need pants, right? So eventually Yaakov Avinu was Masakin Matbeyas, Tikkun Matbeyas. So we have coins. But coins originally had intrinsic value. What does intrinsic value mean? That Hazav kindness a Kesev, it was the value of the coin. If the coin was chipped or the coin got worn out, it wasn't worth as much. Or the guy goes to a Rebbe, Mekubal, Mashgiach, Chacham, wherever you want. Apply it to whoever you want. Right? And he goes to him and says, I need a bracha. He says, I'm giving you a blessed $1. Maybe you have a cursed 100 for me, The coins had intrinsic value. Now, there was a time, yes?
Put it down about your name.
Right, that's right. That's right. Important story. Now, there was a time that people used to have bars of gold in their house, which was a hot business for the stagecoach robbers. In 1933, FDR signed an executive order, and you know what I'm going to say now, right? Why would anyone name a president after a highway? That's under perpetual construction. In 1933, FDR signed Executive Order 6102. And he said that everyone had to everyone had to give over their blocks of gold to the Treasury and receive banknotes instead. And that was done as a way to get America out of the Depression, so people shouldn't have heard the gold, and this way you have to give it in. And the svara was that you're more likely to use cash than you are to use gold. Gold you don't want to give away. Cash is easier to give away. And the emphasis, there are statistics that are done that if you walk into a store with a credit card, you're likely to buy much more. Even if you're going to write a check, you're going to buy less. If you're going to spend cash, you are going to spend less. Because we live in an illusion. We don't see what we're doing. I told you this many times. Once heard my little kids talking. One of them says, the grocery order came, Baruch Hashem, we have a house full of guests. So we come in and I hear a conversation between my two pre-1A kids. One of them says, how does your tati have so much money for so much food? And I'm like, yeah, good question. Kid says, my tati doesn't need money. Doesn't need money? No. No, the butcher order come. Because how do you have money for the butcher? Doesn't need money for the butcher. Why not? Because we have a telephone. Telephone? So what do you need a telephone? It says, well, we go into the butcher once a week to pay, and I take out my credit card, and he says, what's your phone number? So all the kid sees is, you say your phone number, and then you take all the meat you want, because all you need is a phone number. And I said, wait, I've got to get this kid straight. So from then on, every time I went in to pay the butcher, I took the kid with me. See? Money. See? Phone number just used as an identifying who I am. He still doesn't have. But in any event, as life goes on, we're really detached from reality. Now, as time went on, even more, so it used to be, Rabbi Sai, it used to be that for every dollar you had, there was that amount of gold in Fort Knox. Now, I hate to tell you this, but it is no secret that system is not there anymore. You do not have gold for every dollar that we have. So why then is the dollar worth anything? So to quote a very famous economist by the name of Milton Friedman, he said like this, that the American dollar has value because people think it has value. Okay? So you're beginning to understand what the Gemara says, machshavtoi meshavulei mokan, that the machshava that we have for something creates the reality. It's not the reality itself. Or they say this person was a big balavei, he comes up there to Shemayim, they take him to Gan Eden. All the other neshamas say, why is he going into Gan Eden? Why he's going into Gan Eden? You know what a huge check he gave for Achnasas Kalu right before he died? 7 days later, they come into Gan Eden, they say, into Gehenna. What happened? Check bounced. Right? So in reality, the thing that money has no real value, it's only because people think it has value. So Yisrael Salanter said that taking away a paper boat from a kid is just, from a boy, is just as serious as taking away a huge ocean liner from a person. Both are not real. And both are, the person is emotionally attached to it. He's emotionally connected to it. Okay. Now, I want to take this a drop further. I think we've discussed this before. Or we discussed it last week. We said last week that we don't even see anything that's real. Our eyes don't see things. What do our eyes see? Our eyes see the light bouncing off things that forms images. Right? So wait a second. The money is not money. The life is not real. What we see, we don't see. So why is it that I tripped over my front step and I banged my head into something that's not real? No, of course, we have to deal with reality. But what's happening is that when the kina taiva v'kavod begin to wear down on us, hold it, stop a second. The Rebbeinu Shem sent me here for a purpose. When you start getting angry, I have nothing in my life! Are you sure you have nothing in your life? You're wearing clothes? Look around you. The Rebbeinu Shalom has the lights focused on you. I'm burnt out, I'm not doing a thing. Right. You want to take a break? You want to take a break? You're not doing a thing? You're going to have to answer what the Rebbeinu Shalom created for you. Like we said last week, I believe, the Chassam Sofer says that it brings a medrash that Adam and Chava could not see or could not hear. After the Chet Eitzadas, they got eyes and ears. What is that supposed to mean? Because our eyes don't really see anything. We just see light that bounces off something. Our ears don't really hear anything. We just hear things bouncing off walls. There's even a whole thing that I read someplace that the FBI or CIA or someone is working on something that even after you walk out of the room, an hour later they can still pick up what you said by echoes that are still bouncing off the walls. So what's real? Before the Chet Eitzadas, they really saw things. They saw things that are reality. So a man walks in Beit Shemesh someplace, sits down, he sees a Rebbe learning with a kid, and it's not going. It's just not going with the kid. The Rebbe's doing everything. He explained the Mishnah so beautifully. He said, "Guys, nicht! Not going." Feels so bad for the kid. Comes back a few weeks later, the Rebbe's learning Mishnah after Mishnah. The kid is chapping, asking pointed questions. What happened? Turns out the kid came into his mother and said, "Ma, do you ever daven for me? I should understand learning." She says, "Yeah. By ever at Sin Lecht. I light candles. Erev Shabbos. Of course I daven for you." He says, "Well, how come it's not working?" After a certain amount of tefillas, it's going to work. It's taking too long. We need more tefillas. So the kid went and called his family, his extended family, all the neighbors. His mother starts lighting left. Boom, what's this? Party? Well, your kid asked that we should all come along daven with you when you're tzin left. He says afterwards, the Mishnah started coming, one after the other. 1, 2, 3. Because in that lecht is the Ar Hagans. When Shabbos comes, we can disconnect a little bit from reality and realize that what we see is not really what we're seeing, but it's all a stage for us to do what we have to do Yirbu atzvaisam achar maharu. There were 3 Talmidim from the Beis Aaron. Heard this from Rabbi Melech, Midem Zang Gesund. And each one understood the pasuk differently from their Rabbi. Yirbu atzvaisim, a person adds depression, you know why? Because achar maharu. Because you're in a rush. I want it now. You want it now. I want that now. I wish I had that. I wish I had... Wait, relax. The Rebbe Hashem built for you exactly what you need. Achar maharu, you're trying to hurry things, trying to change a Kadosh Baruch Hu's timetable, you're in for atzvus. Yirbu atzvaisam, the more a person doesn't try to fight off depression, another one heard, achar maharu. Then you drag more atzvus to yourself. The more you try to be happy, the more HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you happiness. Sometimes, yirbu atzvaisam achar meharu, yirbu atzvaisam, when you add on to your atzvus, achar maharu, you're sending it to the sitra achar. The sitra achar says you're depressed, you want to see the world becomes very tight. You can have a huge house and it's very tight. And a machshavta, if your machshav is that the Rabbi Hashem has put me in a world and created things, then the world becomes very big. Now, yirbu atzvaisam, no one is immune from atzvus. You get hit hard with an asai and everyone reels from it. But how quickly am I to get up and to go on? A friend told me that his father was in a special, in concentration camps. The Germans had a place, it was supposed to be a kinderlager. They had about 100 kids. It was a propaganda thing to show that they're taking care of them. But when the war was over and they got desperate, they put them on the death marches. Most of them died. He wound up in one of the concentration camps, no food, no nothing. And by the end of the war, he was starting to the typhus. He was sick with typhus. He says even after it was liberated by one of the Allied armies, he was lying on the floor, he couldn't move. And he said he realized what was happening. They were just dragging away corpses. They're not even going to know he's alive. So he said he managed to turn himself over and he started to crawl. Mm-hmm. And he remembered saying to himself, where am I crawling to? He said, I feel if I try to live, the Rebbe Hashem is going to give me life. And in his concentration camp uniform, he's crawling and crawling and crawling. And he crawls all the way, around the American tanks, around the soldiers running in different directions and everything that was going on there. Crawls all to the front. And by then comes a truck. What happened is 3 of his cousins were freed from a different concentration camp. They commandeered a German truck. And they were driving, and they passed by, and they see this guy crawling. One of them says, that's our cousin, that's, Moshe Baruch, whatever his name is. The other one said, forget it, he's dead. Look at him. The other one said, no. Because Baruch Hu brought us here for a reason. And they grabbed him, they picked him up, put him onto the truck, and they brought him to some hospital. They paid money for doctors and nurses. He was there 6 months, and he survived. And he had a beautiful family, generations, children, Einiklach. Why? Because he picked himself up and said, let me crawl. Where are you crawling? There's no place to crawl to. You're dying. There's no life. You're surrounded by corpses. If I try, the Rebbe Hashem will pick up the rest. But in order to do that, sometimes you have to disconnect yourself from reality and say nothing is real. Life has to go on. So the Mishnah says that if you're a Talmud of Avraham Avinu, you have an Ayin Taiba, you have a Nefesh Shefela, you have a Ruach Nemucha. If you're a Talmud of Bilam, you have an Ayin Ra. Ayin Taiba means you're gracious when it comes to giving things. You want to give more and more. Ayin Ra means, I can't take it. A guy comes in and says, someone told me the grocery store guy came in to pay cash, and the guy says, do me a favor, hold the cash a few days before you deposit it. What you get, I don't know, I feel better that way. I still have it, right? That's an ayin ra. Ruach gevaya, the world is mine, you're taking from me, I'll tell you, you're not giving me enough gavay. Nefesh rechava, you're not paying me enough. What happens is, when you have an ayin ra and a ruach gevaya, nefesh rechava, you create, says this Sfas Emes, a rega shel zam. You create anger and shemayim. The Rebbe says, look what I built for you. Look at the world that I built for you. Get out there and do what you have to do. And all you have is tainas, you're not willing to give. And Bilam worked with that. Bilam's Ayin Ra, Ruach Gavaya, and Nefesh Chava created a Kitrug in Shemayim, and he used that power to curse. The problem was, the Rabbi Shalom said, we're not getting angry now. Ma'ekav la'kava keil. But Avraham Avinu, says the Sfas Emes, who doesn't have money to give, but he's going to give anyway. Forces an Ayin Taiva. Whatever he could give, he wants to give with a whole heart. The Chayzer once told the Rebbe Rabbunim, I want you to travel from town to town until you learn your lesson. You know what he meant? He came to a certain Kreitzma, and he sees the guy sitting there, he's crying, not a single customer the entire day. I'm not going to pay the rent. In the end, the guy walks in, he goes, I'm freezing, can I have a glass of schnapps? I don't have any money. Great. One customer, no money. So he gives him a glass of schnapps, and as he's about to use it, he takes it and smashes it on the floor. What's with you? Could I have a glass of schnapps? Freezing? Gives him another one, smashes it on the floor. Gives him another one, and goes, take it. He goes, hey pal, why did you break the first 2 glasses? He goes, have no money. I don't know how I'm going to pay the par. It says, Yid comes in for schnapps. He says, I'm doing someone a toiv in the most difficult time. I felt I was getting it in with an anger. It's not the way you do a toiv. Nah, not the way you do a toiv. Until I worked myself up. Okay, Hashem, at least I have this. I'm helping someone. I got to do a belev shalom. So he realized what his Rebbe meant. Because he had to do someone a favor that day, and he kind of rolled his eyes before him. That's an ayin toiva. So just like the ayin ra forces a rega shazan and creates klolos, says the Sfas Emes and ayin toiva. I'm going to crawl. You're right. Reality says I have no reason. My problems are not going to be solved. Who says reality is what's going to determine things? We don't see reality. And ayin toiva nefesh afel and ruach nemuches mitalmidei shel Avraham Avinu. That through that it is nizgala and or chadash that did not exist before him. Lord of Yaakov Yosef Herman, he was the famous pioneer of Torah in America, the author of the Boss book, and he was the big Baal Machnas Oirach. He was the Baal Machnas Oirach for almost a century. And how many people he was Makarev and so on. How did it all start? His family came from Europe. They could not survive over here. They had to go back. They were going back, but they didn't have money for everyone, so they left this 13-year-old kid over here. And they put him up by a neighbor, and by this neighbor they said, okay, his rent is going to be $1.25 a week. Nothing really changed. Just now it's about $1.25 a minute, but $1.25 a week. And he was going to work in a fur store as an apprentice, but they were going to give him $1. So $1 to pay the rent, or $1.25 a month, somewhere there. $1 to pay the rent, 25 cents. He had, an extra little bit to get himself shoelaces or something that he needed. As soon as his parents left, so these cousins that he was staying by said, we changed our mind. $1.25 is your rent. Because they realized he has an extra 25 cents, so why shouldn't they get that 25 cents? So he was extremely hurt. He realized they knew he was alone. Parents are gone. They're taking advantage of him. So right before Shabbos, he stormed out. Where are you going? Stormed out. And he went to a park bench. And he bought himself 2 challahs for Shabbos, which he had money for. And he sat down on the park bench. He's not going back to that house. You're not going to do this to me. And as he sat there on the park bench, and night settled in, he said to himself, if I ever get a home, I am going to open it so wide for guests. Now he survived the Shabbos. He went back to get his stuff. And he worked and found a different place to stay. Now you can look at this story and you can say, hey, you couldn't wait till after Shabbos to storm out? You had to go storm out to a park bench right there and then? You know something? We're human beings. And as much as we know the world is not real, when you get slapped in the face, the world is very real. The guy that came in after a shiur, he said, Ein oid mulvadoi. There's nothing else but Hashem. There's nothing else but Hashem. And boom, he hits a hat oven. There's nothing, ow! He goes, except this hat oven. There's Hashem and this hat oven. Right? As soon as things don't go our way, all of a sudden our understanding of Elikos changes. We're human beings. We're not brain dead and we're not heart dead. Baruch Hashem. So, Memela, it says, Yirbu atzvaisam acher meharu. No, there are going to be times you're going to be ba'atzvus. There are going to be times you're going to get hit hard. And we're going to react. That's not the taina against us. Taina against us is why we don't pick ourselves up and crawl. You're going to run away when you're upset. We're human beings. But he could have sat on that park bench and he could have made his plans for the future. Right after Shabbos. I'm going to burn down their house. I'm going to destroy the entire block. I'm going to get even with the entire world. There are people that think that way. Instead, he turned it around and said, I'm going to survive this Shabbos, and I am going to have a home of hachnosas orchim that this country has never seen before. Do you understand how we can take that very emotion and turn it over? It's our choice. Ayin ra, ayin taiva. Ruach gavaya, nefesh shefela. A nefesh rechava, or a ruach nemucha. The Stei Chemet was one of the biggest, opened up a Stei Chemet. It's an encyclopedia. Fischel, when he lived in Hebron, he couldn't Google anything over there. There's encyclopedia knowledge. He said he didn't have a great memory. How could you remember so much? You knew him? No. Great tzaddik, yes. And he was a moedik. He says he learned in Hebron, and he was going up in the Kailul, and somebody else was upset that his son-in-law wasn't becoming the guy in the Kailul. So he decided to fix him with a very misazach. They told the maid to go running out and say that so-and-so chapted, that he did a Fischel chapted with her. And she ran out screaming, there was a whole garachka, you heard what he did. And the owner of the Kaila, the supporter of the Kaila came and said, what's going on here? So they said, what happened? He walks in, he sees Fischel sitting and learning. Here's the story, doesn't He says, I don't believe one word of this. This is nonsense. He chapped right away who did it, and he fired the maid, and he says, but Lamaisa, the story kept going. Rumors go. Once the rumors are out there, the guy said, I'm going to spread bad rumors about your daughter. He says, I don't have a daughter. It's not going to help, okay? The rumors are going to spread anyway. Once rumors spread, it spreads. So now, after a while, the maid comes to him. She's like scared. Well, what do you want? She says, listen, they paid me money. I should do this charade. That's someone running out screaming. The money's used up. I don't have the job. So I'll make a deal with you. I'll tell everyone the truth, that I was paid to do it. It'll clear you from all things. And you go ask him, should rehire me as a maid, because I need the money. So Fischel sits down, he says, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, right? He could clear his name. On the other hand, he said, there already was one Chil Hashem. So now has to be another Chil Hashem? That somebody would go and do this? Whoever believes, believes. Whoever doesn't believe. He said, you know what? I'll get your job back. Don't say nothing to no one. He says, he said it to the boss. He said, what? She admitted that? No, take her back. Okay? He says, he came in, he opened up his Gemara, and all of a sudden he didn't see the Gemara. He saw Shas, Poiskim, Midrashim, he saw Kalatayra Kula. Something opened up. You understand how not real this world is? For one Mesiras Nefesh of Ayin Taiva, if we decide to keep crawling, if we sit on that park bench at the epitome of our anger, and it's our decision, burn the house down or build the house up, then things will open up for us that were never available for them.